Keeping you is my goal.
10 names you already know. 10 deaths that were never fully explained. Not cold cases buried in distant history. These are some of the greatest voices in R&B and soul. The people who played at your family's reunion, raised you on Sunday mornings, slow danced you through your first heartbreak. And how they left this world still doesn't completely add up. The official stories exist. The cases were closed. But the full truth? For every single person on this list, we're still waiting.
Long time coming, but I know.
Number 10, Johnny Ace.
Forever burn.
Christmas Day, 1954, Houston, Texas.
I'll never part from you.
Johnny Ace was 25 years old, and at the peak of everything, Cashbox magazine had just named him the most programmed R&B artist of the entire year.
I love you the rest of my day.
He'd charted 7 singles in a row. He was booked solid. And Pledging My Love, a record he'd already laid down in the studio, was sitting in the vault, waiting to become one of the most gorgeous ballads the genre had ever produced. During an intermission at a Christmas dance at the City Auditorium, he went backstage. A gun went off, and Johnny Ace was gone at 25.
I love you the rest of my day.
Now, the story that hit the radio that night, and the story that survived for decades, was Russian roulette.
And your loving way.
One bullet, one spin, one pull of the trigger. Romantic and tragic in the way only a 25-year-old at the height of his talent can be tragic. But here's what you probably don't know.
And dear, to keep love and to hold.
Curtis Tillman, who was Big Mama Thornton's bass player, was in that dressing room. He said Ace had been drinking and waving a little .32 caliber pistol around the table, pointing it at people as a joke.
I'll love just you. Just from
Somebody said, "Be careful," and Ace said, with a smile, "It's okay, the gun's not loaded. See?" Then pointed it at his own head and pulled the trigger. Not Russian roulette, just a terrible, irreversible mistake. But there's a third version. Some people speculated that Ace was shot by Don Roby, owner of Duke Records, in an effort to end contract renegotiations. Roby was known as a music world operator who sometimes pulled guns during business transactions. Ace was his most profitable artist. And when a contract becomes inconvenient, sometimes the story that gets told about a death is more convenient than the truth.
I love you the rest of my day.
Nobody proved that. Nobody will. What nobody could stop was the music. Pledging My Love became a posthumous hit, and with it, Ace remained a significant figure in early R&B history.
My heart's at your command.
With later artists covering his songs and citing him as an inspiration. The man died with the biggest hit of his career still ahead of him.
Dear, to keep love and to hold.
Whatever really happened in that dressing room on Christmas night in 1954, it's still singing.
Keeping you is my goal. I'll
Number 9, Florence Ballard.
Yearning, burning, yearning, feeling inside me.
If you know the Supremes, you know Diana Ross.
So helplessly, you now wanna leave.
You probably know Mary Wilson. And if you know your Motown history, really know it, you know that Florence Ballard was the woman who put the group together from the ground up. As teenagers in Detroit, her idea, her voice, her energy, She died on February 22, 1976. Florence Ballard was 32 years old.
me. Ooh, please don't leave me.
She died of a heart attack, of cardiac arrest caused by a coronary thrombosis, a blood clot in one of her coronary arteries. 32 years old, a founding supreme, dead on welfare.
All by myself. I've got this.
That part isn't a mystery. That part's just a fact that hits different every time you say it out loud.
Where did our love go? And darling,
The woman who sang on 9 #1 records with the greatest girl group in Motown history was receiving public assistance when her heart gave out. Here's what happened between the fame and that hospital.
baby, baby, where did our love
After being removed from the Supremes in 1967, Ballard tried an unsuccessful solo career with ABC Records before she was dropped.
go back? You came into my heart now.
After struggling with alcoholism, depression, and poverty for several years, she lost an $8 million lawsuit against Motown for additional royalties she believed she was owed. Her husband left, her house was foreclosed, and then, and this is the part I want you to hold, in 1975, she received an insurance settlement from her former attorney's malpractice insurance.
Yearning, burning, yearning, feeling inside me.
She bought a house and began performing again. She was working toward a musical comeback, and then her heart stopped.
Ooh, don't you want me?
Was it the years of poverty and grief? The alcoholism she developed after Motown pushed her out? Or was a woman with limited access to health care, living in Detroit in 1976, simply not given the warning signs she needed?
Leave me behind, baby, baby. Ooh, baby, baby.
For many years, her grave had only a simple marker. On June 30th, 2021, her birthday, a proper memorial headstone was finally dedicated.
Baby, baby.
If you've ever watched someone get squeezed out of the thing they built, slowly, systematically, until there was nothing left, you know exactly what kind of story this is.
Ooh, you wanna leave me? Ooh.
Jennifer Hudson dedicated her Oscar to Florence Ballard's memory because Effie White was built from her life, and the woman who inspired that performance died at 32 with almost nothing.
Baby, baby, where did I know?
You tell me if that adds up.
I've got this yearning, burning, yearning.
Real talk, only 9% of you are subscribed. That hurts. We're spending hours digging through archives, fact-checking every detail, bringing these stories back to life. And if you're watching this far, you clearly care. So hit subscribe. It's free and takes 2 seconds. Now, to my subscribers, barely any of you have joined the membership. And honestly, that stings even more. You know the work we put in. You keep coming back. If these videos have ever made you feel something, if this music means something to you, join the membership. It's $1 coffee a month, and it's the only way we keep this going. Let's build this together. All right, back to it. Number 8, Jackie Wilson.
Just say you will, say you will.
September 29th, 1975. Jackie Wilson was singing Lonely Teardrops at the Latin Casino in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. He was part of Dick Clark's Good Old Rock and Roll Review. Mid-lyric, mid-note, he fell to the stage floor, and the audience started clapping.
Come on, just say you will.
They thought it was part of the act. That's how magnetic Jackie Wilson was. Even his collapse looked like a move. Cornell Gunter of the Coasters, who was backstage, noticed Wilson was not breathing. Gunter was able to resuscitate him, and Wilson was then rushed to a nearby hospital.
Just say you will.
He had suffered a massive heart attack. When he went down, his head struck the stage equipment. The brain damage was severe. Wilson was in a coma in the hospital for the next 3 months.
Come home, come home.
Jackie had suffered severe brain damage as a result of his head hitting the stage when he collapsed. And from that point on, for 8 years and 4 months, he communicated primarily by blinking his eyes. Here's where the questions begin.
Say you will.
Tarnopple and 18 other Brunswick executives were indicted on federal charges of mail fraud and tax evasion stemming from bribery and payola scandals in 1975.
My heart is crying, crying hot.
Also in the indictment was the charge that Tarnopple owed at least $1 million in royalties to Wilson. The conviction was later overturned on appeal. And since Wilson was lying in a nursing home, unable to speak or sign a legal document, that lawsuit, his chance to recover what he was owed, never happened.
You've been down, babe. You know my heart, it does.
Wilson was placed in the guardianship of his estranged wife, Harleen Harris, and her lawyer. Legal actions taken by his court-appointed guardians cut off rehabilitative therapies whenever it appeared he could recover.
Just say you will, say you will.
Joyce Moore, who struggled and sacrificed to help him, was eventually barred from visiting. Was that negligence? Was it calculated? Was it a system that simply didn't protect a man who couldn't speak for himself?
Nothing but bad cry.
Wilson died on January 21, 1984, at age 49, of complications from pneumonia. He was initially buried in an unmarked grave. He was broke and an estimated $300,000 in debt. Dick Clark reportedly paid his entire medical bill. Elvis Presley once said, Jackie Wilson was the greatest entertainer he'd ever seen. Elvis paid his hospital bills. Fans eventually raised money for a headstone.
Lord, my pillows never dry.
What happened to Jackie Wilson in those 8 silent years? Nobody who could answer that is talking.
Come home, come home.
Number 7, David Ruffin.
I've got the month of May.
The voice of My Girl, the lead of Ain't Too Proud to Beg, the anguished gospel baritone that defined the classic 5 era of the Temptations.
Say what can make me feel this.
One of the 5 or 6 greatest voices to ever come out of Motown. David Ruffin, the former lead singer of The Temptations, died at the hospital of the University of Pennsylvania early on June 1, 1991, an hour after a limousine driver told emergency room doctors that his famous passenger had taken a drug overdose.
Talking about my girl.
He was 50 years old. Here's what made this different from every other drug story in music. According to police reports, Brown drove Ruffin to a crack house between 10 and 11 p.m. Ruffin apparently collapsed at the crack house and was driven, unconscious, to the hospital by Brown, who left immediately.
Than the birds in the trees.
The staff carried him inside. They worked for an hour. He was identified by fingerprints. He had $53 in his pockets. An estimated $40,000 he was carrying when he was stricken has disappeared.
I guess you say.
Tour proceeds. Money from a month-long run through England with Eddie Kendricks and Dennis Edwards. A tour that had just wrapped. A man who was working again, relevant again, back on stage where he belonged.
What can make me feel this way?
That money was gone. Never recovered, never explained. Ruffin's driver left quickly without giving any other information about Ruffin.
I've even got the month of May with my girl.
He was located and questioned, but the full account of those missing hours, What happened inside that crack house, how a man with $40,000 in tour earnings ended up at an emergency room with $53. That story has never been fully told. The medical examiner ruled it an accidental cocaine overdose. Maybe that's exactly what it was. But if someone you loved showed up unconscious at an ER with $40,000 missing from his body, dropped off by a driver who disappeared before the body was even identified, would you call that case closed? Number 6, Paul Williams of The Temptations. Here's one most people don't know by name. Paul Williams, the founding baritone of The Temptations, the man who choreographed those moves, the synchronized grace that made 5 men look like one organism thinking out loud. He designed the look that became Motown's most iconic image. On August 17, 1973, Williams was found dead inside a car parked in an alley, wearing only swimming trunks. He had just left the new house of his then-girlfriend after an argument, and a gun was found near his body. Williams's death was ruled an apparent suicide. He was 34 years old. Paul Williams had been struggling. He suffered secretly from sickle cell anemia, a genetic blood disorder that caused him chronic pain, and developed a severe and debilitating alcoholism to cope with his condition. He'd been forced to retire from the group in 1971, doctor's orders. He was in debt. His marriage was falling apart. Otis Williams said Paul had told him he'd had suicidal thoughts. All of that is real. All of that is true. And now here's what's also true. Paul had used his right hand to shoot himself in the left side of his head, and a bottle of alcohol was found near his left side, as if he'd dropped it while being shot. The gun had fired 2 shots, yet he was shot only once. 2 shots, 1 wound, gun in his right hand, wound on the left side of his head. The most common counter-interpretation is that Paul Williams was caught with his partner in his girlfriend's apartment by someone who shouldn't have been there. But that cannot be substantiated, so the official story remains official, albeit with questions unanswered. His family never accepted the ruling, and Motown had a solo single of his, already recorded and ready to release. After Williams' death was ruled a suicide, Motown decided to shelve the sides because the song "Feel Like Giving Up" was just too literal to bear. Some people think they were being respectful. Others think they were putting a convenient story to rest. I'll let you decide which side you're on. Number 5, Tammi Terrell. If you know, ain't no mountain high enough, and if you've heard it once, you know it for the rest of your life, you know this name. Tammi Terrell, the voice that Marvin Gaye brought out the best in, and the voice that brought the best out of him. Terrell's career was interrupted when she collapsed into Gaye's arms as the two performed at a concert at Hampden-Sydney College on October 14, 1967. Terrell was later diagnosed with a brain tumor and had 8 unsuccessful surgeries before dying on March 16, 1970, at age 24. The medical explanation is clean, a naturally occurring malignant brain tumor. Case closed. But Tammi Terrell's life before that collapse was not without violence, not even close. Ruffin was also abusive. The Michigan Chronicle reports a long-standing rumor that Ruffin was responsible for Terrell's eventual death because he hit her on the head with a hammer. Earl Van Dyke of the Funk Brothers recalled Ruffin once beating up Terrell in the famed Hitsville recording studio, and in 1967, Terrell ended their relationship after Ruffin hit her in the head with his motorcycle helmet. The hammer incident was denied to be the cause of the tumor by her doctor, Richard Harner, chief of neurology at Graduate Hospital. He claimed it is possible that she could have been hit at some point, but this was not the cause of her tumor. So medically, officially, the abuse didn't cause it. But here's what Marvin Gaye wrote in his own biography about her death. Tammi was the victim of the violent side of love. I have no knowledge of what really killed her, but it was a deep vibe, as though she was dying for everyone who couldn't find love. And here's what Tammy's mother did at the funeral. Terrell's mother angrily barred everyone at Motown from the funeral, except for Gaye, whom she felt was Terrell's closest friend. She blamed most of the label for failing to protect Terrell from David Ruffin during their relationship. If you've ever loved someone and watched people in power look the other way while they were being hurt, you know exactly what that mother was saying at that funeral. Marvin Gaye never fully recovered from Tammy's death. Some biographers say it's where What's Going On was born, from a grief that never closed. Number 4. Marvin Gaye. April 1st, 1984, the day before his 45th birthday. Marvin Gaye was shot by his own father. That's the part everybody knows. On April 1st, 1984, American singer and songwriter Marvin Gaye was shot and killed on the day before his 45th birthday by his father, Marvin Gaye Sr., at their house in the Western Heights neighborhood of Los Angeles, California. But here's what changes the entire story when you hear it for the first time. On Christmas Day, 1983, Marvin gave his father an unregistered .38 caliber Smith & Wesson pistol to protect him from intruders. 4 months before the shooting, Marvin Gaye put the gun in his father's hands himself. Let that sit. Gaye's siblings believed that his death was a premeditated suicide. Gene later said that, by forcing his father's hand in the murder, Gaye had accomplished 3 things. He put himself out of his misery. He brought relief to Mother by finally getting her husband out of her life. And he punished Father by making certain that the rest of his life would be miserable. My brother knew just what he was doing. Was it a premeditated suicide, designed so that Marvin Gaye could leave without leaving his mother behind in an abusive marriage? Was it a spontaneous act of domestic violence? Was it a broken man being broken by a broken father? He was over $1 million in debt. The depression that started when Tammi Terrell died in 1970 had never fully lifted. He had told people he wanted to die. He was out of places to go. And then, right before the trial, doctors discovered something in his father's skull. A potentially fatal tumor was discovered in the brain of the father of slain soul singer Marvin Gaye, the size of a walnut. A defense attorney said it may have caused the behavior leading to the April 1 shooting. Gaye pleaded no contest to voluntary manslaughter, a reduced charge from first-degree murder. He was sentenced to a 6-year suspended sentence and 5 years probation because of his failing health. No prison. The man who shot Marvin Gaye never served a day. Was the tumor real? Yes. Did it cause the shooting? No one can say. Did it give a killer a way to walk free? Possibly. Did Marvin Gaye, in some sense, design his own exit? His sister thinks so. Number 3, Donny Hathaway.
Gonna be together.
If you know this Christmas, and once you've heard it, you hear it forever, that's Donny Hathaway. If you know The Closer I Get to You with Roberta Flack, Where is the Love, A Song for You, you know what this voice could do. One of the most transcendent souls in all of R&B. January 13th, 1979. He was 33 years old. On January 13th, 1979, Hathaway and his manager, David Franklin, had dinner at Flack's apartment in New York City.
How much fun it's gonna be together.
Following dinner, the singer returned to his hotel room at the posh Essex house. Later that night, Franklin was notified that Hathaway's body had been discovered below his 15th floor window.
Get to know you better.
The hotel room door was locked from the inside, and there was no sign of foul play. The window's safety glass had been removed and laid on the bed. It appeared that Hathaway had jumped to his death, ruled a suicide. No note.
Oh, I'm gonna get to know you better.
Jesse Jackson delivered the eulogy at Hathaway's funeral, noting that Hathaway had been dressed in his coat and scarf, and contended that no one gets bundled up just to jump out of a window.
It'll be a very special Christmas.
Think about that. He was dressed for the January cold before he went out that window, and the glass was not broken. It was carefully removed and placed flat on the bed.
Shake a hand, shake a hand now.
That takes time. That takes deliberateness. Whatever happened in that room, it wasn't impulsive. However, he was acting paranoid and irrational, telling Flack that white people were trying to kill him and that he had heard God's voice.
The night and this Christmas.
He also refused to take his medication. So which version do you hold?
Wish your brother Merry Christmas.
A man in a psychotic crisis who removed the glass with careful, deliberate hands and then dressed in his winter coat before going to that window? Or a man who was genuinely afraid for his life and whose fear turned out to be correct?
For me, yeah.
Although the New York City coroner had ruled the death a suicide, friends found the ruling difficult to accept, in part because Hathaway was enjoying renewed professional success at the time.
This Christmas, the fireside is blazing bright.
The Closer I Get to You had charted at number 2 and earned them another Grammy nomination. His daughter Lala Hathaway, who carries her father's voice in her own instrument, was 3 years old when he fell.
Hang all the mistletoe, I'm gonna.
She never got the full story either. And honestly, neither did the rest of us.
And this Christmas will be.
Number 2, Phyllis Hyman. July 30th, 1995. Phyllis Hyman was supposed to perform that night at the Apollo Theater in Harlem. One of the great venues of Black American music, a stage she had owned since the early 1980s. Her assistant found her that morning at her apartment in New York, unresponsive. The cause of death was an intentional overdose of barbiturates. A note was found. The coroner ruled it a suicide. And the music world lost one of its most singular voices, a woman who made You Know How to Love Me and Living All Alone feel like they were written specifically about every complicated, unresolved feeling you'd ever carried for someone you couldn't quite hold on to. That might have been the end of the story, but here's what people who knew Phyllis Hyman have said in the years since. She had battled severe depression and bipolar disorder for most of her adult life. The music industry had not treated her well. She was the kind of extraordinary talent that kept getting passed over, overlooked, difficult to market by executives who didn't know what to do with a voice that large, or a woman who refused to make herself smaller.
I'm so happy. You're the rhythm of my...
She was vocal about that, angry. Her note, by multiple accounts, was not a quiet farewell. It was bitter and exhausted, the words of a woman who had been carrying something unbearable for a very long time and had run out of room for it. Some people close to her questioned, in the years after, whether her overdose was the calculated act the ruling suggested, or whether it was a woman in the depths of a mental health crisis making decisions that can't be cleanly evaluated from the outside. We don't get to know that answer. That's the part that stays with you. On the same day she was scheduled to stand on that Apollo stage,
People say, but each time
the same stage Ella Fitzgerald owned, the same stage Billie Holiday walked, the same stage that had carried every kind of genius this music has ever produced.
we'll stand the test of time.
Phyllis Hyman died before the curtain went up. And if this song was playing at a very specific moment in your life, you know the one I mean. You know exactly what we lost that day.
Special way. You know I love me.
Number 1, Sam Cooke.
Ever since it's been a long
December 11th, 1964. Sam Cooke was 33 years old.
was up there beyond the sky.
He was the king of soul. He had founded his own record label. He had written, "A Change Is Gonna Come." He was arguably the most powerful Black artist in America.
But I know a change gonna come.
As a singer, a businessman, and a growing voice in the civil rights movement, he was building something that no one in the music industry had quite seen from a Black artist before.
That I thought I could laugh.
And in the early hours of that December morning, he was found dead at 33 years old, shot 3 times in the chest.
Don't hang around. It's been a long
He was murdered by the motel's manager, Bertha Franklin, who ended up getting off on a case of justifiable homicide. Case closed. In days. For 60 years. Let's look at what actually happened.
It's been a long
Cooke was last seen alive around 1 a.m. at Martoni's restaurant on Sunset Boulevard. He was in good spirits. From that moment until about 2:35 a.m., when he reached the Hacienda Motel in South Los Angeles, the timeline goes silent.
time coming, but I know
It is roughly a 90-minute gap with no confirmed stops, no verified witnesses, and no clear record of how he traveled from one place to the other.
a change gonna come.
That night, the singer was reportedly carrying $5,000 in cash, a sum equivalent to roughly $45,000 today. Following the shooting, police were unable to find any trace of the money.
Hard living, but I'm afraid.
There are many problems with the official account. Elisa Boyer's testimony contains significant inconsistencies. She said she was kidnapped but was left alone in the car when Cooke stopped to register at the motel.
I was born by the river.
The truth about Boyer came out a month later when she was arrested in Hollywood for prostitution. The Hacienda Motel was known as a hangout for sex workers.
Know what's up there beyond the sky.
What probably happened is that Cooke paid for Boyer's services, and when he stepped into the bathroom, she ran out with his cash and credit cards. And here's what stopped the nation.
But I know a change gonna come.
Etta James recalled at his funeral that his head was practically disconnected from his shoulders. That's how badly he'd been beaten. His hands were broken and crushed. They tried to cover it up with makeup, but I could see massive bruises on his head. No woman with a broomstick could have inflicted that kind of beating against a strong, full-grown man. None of those injuries appeared in the autopsy report. Muhammad Ali once said, "If Cooke had been Frank Sinatra, the Beatles, or Ricky Nelson, the FBI would be investigating." He was at the height of his power. He was building a label that threatened the industry's control over black artists. He was singing, "A change is gonna come," at a moment when certain people in certain rooms did not want things to change.
Oh, yes it will.
Some investigative pieces have proposed that Cooke's civil rights connections or business disputes could have made him a target. The absence of conclusive evidence and the passage of time have only served to intensify the mystery surrounding Sam Cooke's death. Was it a robbery that turned violent? A setup? Something with deeper roots than one motel office on a December night? The full story has never come.
And I say, brother, help me please.
And "A Change is Gonna Come," recorded just weeks before he died, has outlasted every version of the official account. Because Sam Cooke already knew something was moving in America.
Oh, yes it will. It's been true.
He was singing about it directly, with that voice, with those words. Whatever really happened at the Hacienda Motel, the song is still right.
Somebody keep telling me don't.